The reason I've made this album, which is really a fresh recording of songs that I've done in the past, and the reason I've called it A Songwriter's Tale is because it represents some of the key songs that I've written throughout my life. It is almost my own life story in songs. Some of them are songs that I've had hits with as an artist in various countries, and some are recordings of myself singing for the first time a song that I might have written for someone else, say Art Garfunkel or somebody else like that.
Well, I feel like Buddy Holly 'cause it's raining in my heart. All the sad songs take me back to you now that we are apart. Now I know how Paul McCartney felt when he got up to say, I wish it was yesterday.
When I was young, I was very, very aware that my voice sounded very young. And one or two kind people said it sounded a bit Beatle-ish. But it was always missing that sort of raspy edge that I always wanted. People like Rod Stewart, of course, are at one end of the spectrum of roughness, and Joe Cocker. And at the other end of the spectrum, you've got the sort of Paul McCartneys, and sort of John Lennon comes somewhere in the middle. Well, I wanted to really be the sort of John Lennon end of the Beatles, if you know what I mean. And then I wanted, but I never wanted to be Joe Cocker or Rod Stewart. But vocally, having waited this long to re-record these songs, I've managed to get from my voice what I think it would have been nice if I'd had when I was sort of 20. But I didn't. I had to wait until I was an old git, and my voice had got a bit rough. Some people roughen up their voices early on in life by drinking lots of scotch and smoking lots of fags. But even though I drank a lot of scotch and smoked a lot of fags, it didn't roughen up my voice enough. Just getting older did it. It's not your voice just as an instrument, it's the fact that you think differently as you grow a bit older. And so you might look back to a song you wrote when you were 28 and read it, interpret it slightly differently because you're now older.
Lady of the dawn, you opened up my sleeping eyes. I never knew that I was born. Well, I like you for your body, but I love you 'cause you're wise. I am your prisoner, oh my lady of the dawn.
It's really thrilling for me to come out from behind the scenes and have a go at being an artist again. I really love performing. I loved performing when I was with Katie as the piano player in her band. I love performing when I go out and conduct. And for me, the ultimate performance is to sit at the piano and sing. There is a complete difference, of course, between performing as a conductor and performing as a singer-songwriter.
Out in the deserts of darkness and dreams, out through the oceans of sadness we sail.
You are really out on your own, except you've got the audience. And that's the key for me. I always treat them as if they're my friends and they're just in my front room. And I think it's disrespectful to an audience to expect them to be strangers. It's much more a warm experience for an audience to feel they know you and for you to acknowledge the fact that there's an intimacy between you and them. So I just chat to them as if they're my pals, even if they might be people I've never met before, which in most cases they are. Okay, you've got the job, you've got the job. Funny enough, if you do a big concert where you have an orchestra in front of you and you're facing them as the conductor, you've got your back to the audience. You, funny enough, have two audiences. You've got the one in front of you who are the orchestra, who are judging you in some certain way, and you have the audience behind you in a way judging you. And so you're surrounded. You've got people you're making music with, and you've got people you're making music for. And hopefully the people on stage that you're working with are also enjoying it, so you're making it for them as well. Learning to write songs and learning to orchestrate and conduct were things which I taught myself. And because I taught them myself, they took longer to learn. But I was able, I suppose because I had slightly more bravado than a lot of people, I was able to stand up in front of an orchestra when I was 18 and knew almost nothing and say, gentlemen, I'd like you to do this. And they'd do it, and it sounded crap. And they'd say, well, you should have asked us to do this. And I'd say, oh, okay, fine. And I would learn by that.
Chaos maker on this escapade. I need to do.
Bar 42, please, gentlemen, the guitar chord, the guitar licks. Light up again for the same place, and watch me, and we'll bring you in the right place. Here we go.
Forgive me.
Go from there.
Separate cue there, right.
So, start back a little bit again, back to the lighting situation at the end of the last one, and we'll start it in again. Here we go, keep rolling.
I'm often asked if my songs are autobiographical or whether they're fiction or what they are, what inspires me to write a particular song. I think it's probably true to say that there's something of personal experience that goes into almost everything you write. Even if a film director asks me to write a song, let's say Bright Eyes, for example, I was commissioned to write that. So you could say, well, that's not personal experience. But it was that I was asked to write a song about death. Although it's for a cartoon about rabbits, it was about death. The director, who sadly died shortly after my recording of this song, he must have had it on his mind because he was due to go in for heart surgery. And he said to me, write me a song about death. And I went home and I thought, my God, this is the most difficult thing you could possibly ever write. Then I thought to myself, actually, it's the biggest question we have. Where do you go when you die? What happens afterwards? So I was able to write a song about the mystery of what happens.
Bright eyes burning like fire. Bright eyes, how can we close and fail? How can the light that burns so brightly suddenly burn so pale? Bright eyes. Caravans, oh my soul is on the run over land.
Caravans came along, funny enough, at a time when in a film called Caravans, which was a film of the James Michener novel, the girl wanted to break away from the monotony of life and find an adventure.
I'm not leaving you, I'm going with the caravan. You're free to do whatever you want.
And she found the adventure she wanted to find, but she went off. She didn't care where she was going. So I put this line in it, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going. It was like, I'm just heading out and going somewhere.
I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going.
This coincided with the fact that I myself was feeling very much that I wanted to break out. And it just preceded my going off on a boat for 3 years and a whole family change and everything. And it was a complete, I've never used the expression before, but it was a sea change in my life. It was about to happen.
The winds of change are blowing hard in our direction. We can't go back and we can't stand still. The winds of change may try to blow away my affection, but they never will.
It was only years later that I realised, hang on, that year I left on the boat, I wrote, caravans, oh, my soul is on the run, overland I am flying, ending up with, and I don't know where I'm going, but I'm going. And I similarly wrote another song called Run Like the Wind. One day soon I'm going to run like the wind, going to break away from everything. And so it must have been an absolute personal thing that was just bursting out of me, that I had to go wherever it took me. And looking back on it, even though those were fictitious songs written for people who wanted me to write those songs, I was pouring my heart out in them, and they were autobiographical.
I'm on fire, but I see no flame. I perspire, but I feel no pain.
When I was on my boat trip in 1982, I was asked by the Australian Broadcasting Commission to put together, write and to direct a television special which was of a story of mine about a guy called Ralph, otherwise known as Number 17, in a future generation where love was no longer allowed. It was regarded as a disease to be wiped out, or if you had it, you had to be sent to a decontamination centre. And the character sings this song because he sees the girl and falls in love, and that's why it's called Love Makes You Crazy.
Love makes you crazy. Love makes you cry. Love makes them crazy in days gone by.
It's slightly tongue-in-cheek, but it's still done in a kind of dramatic way. But you would never take it that seriously because everyone's wearing black and white checkerboard outfits, and all the hills are made of black and white checkerboard, and the sun is made of black and white checkerboard. In fact, everything is made of black and white checkerboard. It was fun doing it, great fun. It was a sort of mixture between dance, drama, animation, which I'm passionate about. I did all my own animations for it. They're very, very simple in terms of their technique, but it was a technique I was developing, which other people didn't use and haven't used since, really, which is where you use a very large number of still projectors, and you absolutely machine gun fire these still projectors at the screen using a computer to do so and to program when each image comes up. I've never really enjoyed co-writing with people. I think I'm probably too much of a sort of steering wheel grabber. I have written with other people. I've written with Tim Rice and Andrew Lloyd Webber. In fact, I think I'm the only writer that's ever written lyrics for Andrew and music for Tim. The main song I've written with Tim that people know about is A Winter's Tale, which was a very autobiographical song of mine, where I was in a situation and I wanted to send a message to a person. So I said to him, let's not write the musical we were going to write, let's write this song that I want to express to this girl. We co-wrote the lyrics, but so there was still genuinely the story I wanted to tell. So there was an additional lyrical input into that song that probably wouldn't have been there had Tim not been there.
It was only a winter's tale, just another winter's tale. And why should the world take notice of one more love that's failed? It's a love that could never be, though it meant a lot to you and me. On a worldwide scale, we're just another winter's tale.
I took quite a few years off from doing solo recordings. I made half a dozen albums for Sony as a solo artist between the 70s and the 80s and early 90s. Then I became known more as a producer, writer, conductor, whatever it was I was doing, and hadn't ever gone out and done the big thing where you go and do a tour or you take yourself that seriously as a performer, because I was so busy producing other people. More recently starting in, say that in the last 10 years with Vanessa May. About 5 years ago, I broke my neck on the way to a video shoot in Spain. We went down a hill and she could see the road going straight on, but it went also round mainly in a left-hand hairpin turn. I was working on a band called The Planets, who I'd just auditioned and signed and got going. They were great, kind of classical band, they did well. And I was getting them ready for Dramatica's first co-production with EMI. And she just, at 60 miles an hour, went head-on into a great big block of concrete. I was nearly killed.
We thought, what's going to happen? was a very strange feeling, and then we sort of got up and had to come back the next day, and then Mike was in hospital saying, everything's fine, I'm fine, I'm going to produce the video from my hospital bed.
Go straight back out and do it, and we were kind of thinking, well,
how can you?
You can't do that. That's not going to work, surely.
Miraculously, they were able to, save me from paralysis or death. I don't know how, because the guy who was the doctor in charge in Spain, in Madrid, when he showed me the x-ray, he said, I've never shown an x-ray like this to a patient, because normally a patient with an x-ray like this would be dead.
Where are we in the chart?
We're number 1.
Are we? Oh, thank you.
When you have a shock like that is so traumatic, it must affect you in some way. I don't think it's affected my work daily. I'm still the same person. I still produce records in the same way. I still write songs in the same way. So I don't think it was the road to Damascus in any way. It wasn't any kind of revelation. But I just think the vulnerability and the sheer physical fact that your body, clicks a bit and hasn't quite got the same thing. You try to overcome this feeling that it's made you feel more vulnerable, perhaps a little older, a bit earlier than perhaps you should. And then so you fight to overcome that, and the energy that you use to overcome that is perhaps very useful for a creative purpose. Katie Mellower has been my preoccupation for the last, I suppose, 4 years or so. And it's been great to have her as an interpreter of my songs. And they can be new songs that I can write especially for her. In this case, I wanted to, if you like, re-emerge, just for the fun of it, and just to express myself as an artist again, rather than be the person behind someone else who is expressing my songs.
How can I think I'm standing strong, yet feel the air beneath my feet? How can happiness feel so wrong? How can misery feel so sweet?
I'm thrilled to be having this Dramatico company at the moment, because it means I can indulge my fantasies, which I've got to be careful they don't take over, but also those fantasies can be realities, and they can be commercial realities as well. In other words, if it pays the rent as well, then you're very lucky as an artist. There are some people who do great work, but it doesn't pay the rent because no one wants to buy it. One of the things we are doing is that, apart from the fact we're signing new artists, we've got a film we're making of a book I've written called Ergo and Little Else, which is a kind of mad story of a slug who falls in love with a fairy, and he wants to learn to play the piano. But as he hasn't got any hands, it's rather difficult. But he does succeed both in playing the piano and marrying the fairy. So it shows that you can achieve your dreams if you try hard enough.